Okay, so let's talk about your 6.15 graded assignment. So let's talk about this assignment together and how you can go ahead and tackle it. Okay, so we're currently fighting a war on terrorism, and you're writing an assignment where you're deciding if it is a lot like the Cold War or nothing like the Cold War. Your graded assignment is due Thursday, April 13th, so get it in as soon as possible. So here's how to handle this assignment. You're going to be comparing or contrasting the Cold War with the war on terrorism. And so if you look at this green box, hold on, let me move my face. Oops. Okay, so if you look at this green box right here, these are the must-haves to get a good grade on your assignment. You must compare the Cold War and how it is similar to the war on terrorism, or you can choose to contrast the differences of the Cold War with the war on terrorism. Your choice. If you feel like they're similar, then write how they're similar. If you feel like they're nothing alike, then write how they're vastly different. But either side you choose, you must include the significance of key events from both wars when you're explaining how they are the same or how they're different. And finally, you must explain your opinion regarding which the U.S. handled better. And that's this question right here. Do you think the U.S. is handling the war on terror better or worse than they handled the Cold War, and why? So here's some key events that you can include when you're answering these questions. So if you're talking about the Cold War, you can include communism, Iron Curtain, Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam War, but don't limit yourself to that. You could also include the Korean War, you could include the Red Scare, all of those sorts of things. You could include McCarthyism. Here are the events that occurred during the war on terrorism that you could include. You talk about the Taliban, you could talk about 9/11, you talk about the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq. You could also talk about Al-Qaeda, you could talk about ISIS, you could talk about the restrictions on immigrations or limitations on immigration. So any of those would apply. And there's lots of sources for y'all to use too. Okay, here's the rubric for this assignment. So make sure that you explain the significance of key events of the Cold War and the war on terrorism. Make sure you compare and contrast or contrast them. Make sure you explain your view on the handling of the war on terrorism with 2 to 3 reasons why you believe what you believe. And make sure it's well-written essay or a well-presented effective PowerPoint. You can choose to do it either style. Alright, so, here are some definitions for some of these key events, or at least why they're significant. So you can read through this PowerPoint, and that'll help you. If you go to the presentation side, you'll find that. And then here's the war on terrorism. So here are some definitions, some significance of each of these to help you review. Okay, so when you're comparing or contrasting, here's just some questions that might help you think about how they're similar or how they're different. So if you're comparing, what is similar about the Cold War and the war on terrorism? Are there competing ideologies driving both wars? Are there events that brought each war to a head? If you're contrasting, here's some questions to think about. Think about the rationale for fighting. Was one war more justified than the other? Were there clearly drawn sides for one war, not the other? Are there differences in styles of fighting or rationales behind fighting? And lots of sources you can use. Did we learn a lot from the Cold War so we can handle the war on terror better? Do we seem to be making the same mistakes? What do you think? So you have to state a position on this. And as long as you state a position, you can't be wrong if you support your position with reasoning. Okay, so make sure that you use events to prove your point. Make it reader friendly. Remember, this is an essay, and so it must have an introduction, body, and a conclusion. So introduction will be the overview of what you're going to be talking about, include your thesis statement, and identify your motives for writing the essay. Your body will include comparing or contrasting the Cold War to the war on terrorism, using key events, ideas from both wars, and make sure you answer the question, is the U.S. handling the war on terror better or worse than the Cold War? Your conclusion will include your last statements, and restate your ideas about the Cold War and the war on terrorism. Your essay should be written in third person. When you're writing a historical essay, try not to ever use I, my, you, or yours, we, ours, me. Instead, state your opinion as if it's fact, because it's far more convincing that way. So, for example, if you think that the wars are nothing alike, say, the Cold War couldn't be more different than the war on terror that we are fighting now. Instead of saying, I believe the Cold War couldn't be more different than the war on terror that we are fighting now. Leave out the I believe. Just state it as if it's fact. The Cold War couldn't be more different than the war on terror that we are fighting now. You sound way more legitimate when you don't use those personal pronouns in your paper. Okay, so are you opting to do a presentation instead of a paper? If you're doing a presentation, there's going to be a little bit more things required. You must create a poster board or PowerPoint to present from. So, present your presentation, video yourself, or record your voice presenting your PowerPoint using Screencast-O-Matic.com. You can go to that link right there. No need to sign up for an account. Just click Start Recording and then launch the recorder. It's free if you keep your presentation 15 minutes or under, which is what you should do. It allows you to do what I'm doing right now, which is present a PowerPoint, and you can choose to use the video camera, or it'll just narrate your PowerPoint with your voice. It allows you to download the video afterwards as a file or upload it onto YouTube if you have an account. Make sure you include pictures in your presentation. Cite your sources. You still have to cite sources, even though it's not a paper. Turn in your PowerPoint or pictures of your poster board along with your presentation recording to the 6.15 Dropbox. Yes, they will all fit. You can submit all of them. Okay, the War on Terror and the Cold War, they are not the same. That's the title of this source right here. You can click on this source and read about it and then determine your thoughts from the article and see if you can use it for your essay or your presentation. Here's another one. What is the relationship between the Cold War and the War on Terror in Afghanistan? So that's another article you can use. What do the Cold War and the War on Terror have in common? This is a video, but you can see what you find useful from this video and use it as one of your sources. Here's another one. Gerald Ford, Cold War versus War on Terrorism. Watch this video. What ideas do you find useful? And if you need help citing sources, here's a great website to go to. It shows you the correct format for the type of source you're wishing to cite. Okay, so now go ahead and start working on your 6.15 graded assignment. You can do this. Remember, it's a short essay. It's only 3 to 5 paragraphs or a short presentation. So don't make that too lengthy, but do a great job. Make sure that your reasoning is well supported and that you get some of those key events in there from both wars. And remember that this assignment is going to help you prepare for the EOC. It'll help you review the Cold War and the War on Terrorism. If you have questions, you can email me if I'm your teacher at kblackman@gacyber.org, or you can email one of the other U.S. history teachers that you have. Alright, so keep calm and write your essay. Best of luck, and let us know if you have any questions.